You can run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. You can run on for a long time. Sooner or later, God'll cut you down. Sooner or later, God'll cut you down. Go tell that long-time liar. Go and tell that midnight rider. Tell the rambler, the gambler, the backbiter. Tell him that God's gonna cut him down. Tell him that God's gonna cut him down. You can hide in the courthouse, but your hands ain't clean. The deal's unrecorded, no one writes what they see. You lean on your badge, bury what you've done. Try to twist the story, but your turn's gonna come. Script every witness, coach what they say. Plant the evidence, till the truth finds a way. Call it a verdict, claim it was right. Tennessee, I'm gonna lose that fight. Go tell that long-time liar. Go and tell that midnight rider. Tell the rambler, the gambler, the backbiter. Tell him that God's gonna cut him down. Tell him that God's gonna cut him down. You can run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. You can run on for a long time. Sooner or later, God'll cut you down. Sooner or later, God'll cut you down.
Yeah, when they ran you out of Memphis, you thought the river drowned your sins. But your past came back to find you. And the walls are closing in. Now you're up in Sumner County. Try your best. Hunt me down. Think I fear the robe you hide in? The truth comes back around.
You can run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. Sooner or later, God'll cut you down. Sooner or later, God'll cut you down. Someday, God's gonna cut you down.
I didn't think you had it in you.
I'm your huckleberry.
He didn't say it.
Yeah,
though.
he did. He did. Yeah, we were laughing during it. He said, I'm your huckleberry.
I'll be a huckleberry.
I think we're here. I think we're live. Okay,
Oh,
comments.
that was good.
I don't exactly know what I'm doing yet. I was going to say we, but it's me. Will someone just make me feel confident that you can
Let's see. I see people saying things.
People are saying things.
Oh my God, that was so good.
The ending was in. Can y'all hear us? We can see and hear you. Yay. Well, great. Well, Cindy Adams is here, and we're doing our first members only live stream. So I feel like that means that there's far less censorship in what we should be allowed to talk about. We're going to follow up and explain the reference at the end of the new intro. Please give some love to Kinsey, whose vocals are amazing.
Yes.
Yay, Kinsey.
Fearless and multi-talented Kinsey.
Oh, bless her. Bless her.
And we have Nicole here. So Nicole, you've met people, but I'll remind everyone, Nicole is my friend and research partner who's been on this case since the beginning and has gone through countless bank boxes with me. And she came to Morgan County when we went and saw Zach. And also she was there. She's the other voice that you hear in the background of the Jason Autry recant.
That's right. Hi.
And then I think we're getting a special guest and possibly in 10, 15 minutes it might call in.
Ooh.
Yeah.
If TDOC lets it slip by.
So,
Cindy,
we're ready to take questions.
we're going to take questions. There are a few things that I think we know are going to come up. We're going to talk about. Do we want to start? Should we start with the I'm your Huckleberry reference, or do we wait and save that?
I think we should start with Huckleberry. I think that's a good place to start.
Cindy,
Might as well just jump right in.
Should we jump in? Cindy, do you want to explain why I put a Tombstone clip at the end of the?
So one of my favorite movies is Tombstone, and I really like the comment that what was his name? That's his first.
Val Kilmer.
Yeah, he said, "I'll be your Huckleberry." So you can take that either way, I guess. But I posted that on Facebook to Dennis Benjamin, and so this lifelong Memphis police officer felt threatened that I posted this. Okay.
So threatened.
He didn't call the TBI.
No.
He called the FBI on me. Okay. Make that make sense. And the FBI obviously was like, no. Sent it to the TBI, and they were like, no. Sent it to the state, and they were like, okay, we're going to charge you with a Class A felony because they served me with a warrant, went through all my Facebook. And
so
is it safe to say that they included things that I never, ever said and I would never say on Facebook?
Oh, yeah. So there were 2 posts that you made.
Yeah.
One was the Tombstone quote. Another one that's equally non-threatening to any career law enforcement officer with dignity at all, or a pair of balls, which apparently don't apply to Dennis Benjamin. No threatening anyone's physical safety. I don't remember what it said because it wasn't significant or relevant. But then, so they had someone watching her Facebook, and they put in the complaint for the felony arrest that there was another quote that she erased before they could get a screenshot of it. So they gave the screenshots of these 2 benign Facebook quotes. And then they said that you also posted, what was it? It was something that I read. It's like
really stupid.
You definitely, like, I wouldn't even say it. There's just no, it was
a lot of cussing.
Fuck you and your bitch or something. It was something that was just
really
weird.
Bad. But you got to understand that Dennis Benjamin, this wasn't his first rodeo. Let's just say that. He had his thumb in things prior to being assigned to Dylan. He took Dylan from Obion County, moved him into his home, which he has a daughter of the same age as Dylan. And they took him in, and he tried to groom him. And when he figured out Dylan couldn't regurgitate the information, that's when he turned him over as being, someone involved in the case. But he took him into his home with his daughter, the same age as Dylan, and took him to birthday parties. He wasn't worried. He wasn't worried about none of that. No. I wouldn't know the man if he walked into the room today. So that's what happened with I'll Be Your Huckleberry.
So, yeah, to summarize, Dennis Benjamin gets called by Doug Bates as a witness. Dennis Benjamin does not want to testify, so Dennis Benjamin pretends to have dementia and PTSD and whatever else he thinks is going to keep him off the stand, despite having no problems threatening other people. And
is that why he wasn't there at first?
Yeah, because he was dodging service.
Yeah,
that's insane.
And he went and lawyered up and was trying to avoid it and trying to get out of it. And then, while he's Doug's witness, actively working with the state to try to get out of having to testify, he alleges to the FBI that Cindy is posting movie quotes on her Facebook in an effort to threaten him, to scare him from testifying. And good old Dennis Benjamin wants to do his civic duty and get in there and just tell the truth.
The fixer,
the COP. So he went and contacted the FBI, and because he's a cop, I think they take it more, they're going to do the courtesy and send it to the county local law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
So Cindy was facing, while we were on sequestration, you were facing a serious felony charge, witness coercion, for a witness that's on our side, that's a hostile witness.
And let's just go ahead and just say that Dennis Benjamin had his hands in this in more ways than one.
Any questions about Dennis Benjamin? I think Cindy has waited long enough to get to talk openly about Dennis Benjamin.
It looks like there's a lot of questions about Dennis Benjamin.
Yeah, he
I don't see.
Who was the guy that said that he brought him in? What was his name?
Well, Benjamin was kind of lying about how he got brought in, because he was telling people on the recorded interviews that the Bobos asked him for help, and like, he's just such a nice guy, he couldn't turn him down. He literally said, I just couldn't turn him down. He actually contacted multiple law enforcement personnel who he knew through personal connections from his time in Memphis as a cop, and was asking multiple law enforcement officers with connections to the Bobos to introduce him. So then he weaseled his way into the case as an unlicensed private investigator, I guess, helping the Bobos investigate who took Holly. And while all that's going on, Dylan gets charged. Well, Dylan gets charged with selling a firearm to a felon.
Not selling a firearm. He was caught with a guy that had a firearm, and they had with disfigured the numbers and everything of the firearm.
Oh,
but Dennis Benjamin was in this way before this. Even go ahead and say it.
Well, Dennis, I mean, I think what you're probably there are layers of bad deeds in this case, and I think one of the things that has gone on with Dennis Benjamin is that he just has a track record, this case no exception, of inappropriate professional boundaries, inappropriate personal boundaries, involving himself in relationships that many would find exploitive, abusive, criminal. And I think we're going to be careful not to. Dennis Benjamin had an inappropriate
affair.
He had an inappropriate situation with someone who I think I think Dennis Benjamin is a predator, and
I have a question. So he was retired at the time, right?
Yes.
Was he already retired? And he was an unlicensed PI?
Well, he didn't have a license as a PI. He was a retired cop who was not that's.
So
he was essentially me without a podcast. So he wasn't a journalist.
And then they just released Dylan into his custody when he has no jurisdiction, no wherewithal, anything.
No one's ever heard of this happen. If anyone in the chat, I've never heard of this happening ever. Do you want to talk through what your experience of that was?
So let me just tell you the way it all kind of went down. So Dylan's in Obion County for related gun charges. The guy he was with had this gun, and they had something about the numbers on the gun stolen, whatever. So my mom and my sister would go and visit Dylan like every other weekend in Obion County. And so let's say Paul, which is their grandfather, Dick Adams, gave my mom and my sister some papers regarding their home. He was buying the home back from Zach and Dylan. The poor man's bought the house over 4 times. But so he got permission for my mom and my sister to bring the paperwork to Obion County. And when they presented the paper to, was it Jeff Jackson?
Mm-hmm.
To Jeff Jackson, that was his base, his home base.
That's where his cubicle was.
Yeah. So he came out, he read the legal document that was approved, and he came out screaming at my mom and my sister, like, get the hell out of my jail, blah, 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 just on and on and on. My sister almost had to take my mom to the hospital. It upset her so bad. So, of course, they call me. And, of course, I called Jeff Jackson. And I'm like, what the hell? I mean, why would you do that to an 88-year-old woman? Why would you do that? I didn't do that. And I said, okay. So it just so happens I was at a nail salon in Atlanta getting a pedicure, and I put him on speaker. Now, when I say I put him on speaker at a nail salon in Atlanta, just think of the people around me, okay? So he reads me my Miranda rights.
As a TBI agent talking to someone not in Tennessee.
Over the phone.
Yeah. And I said, well, what are you arresting me for? And he said, I don't know. I'll figure something out.
And how was he arresting you? Virtually? I don't understand.
I don't know, but all the people in the nail salon was like, damn, girl, what are you doing? Whatever. But so I was literally scared to come back to Tennessee to see my children or to see Dylan.
Like an hour. Okay.
I was literally scared to come back to Tennessee to see my children. And then I got this call from Dylan, and he was like, Mom, I need for you to come see me. It's real important. And I was like, no, I don't know. I'm afraid to come back to Obion County because Jeff Jackson, said he's going to arrest me and da-da-da. So Jeff got on the phone and was like, no, you need to come see Dylan. And so when I went to see Dylan, before I could see Dylan, we had this meeting like in this off room, Jeff Jackson and
Brent
Booth. So, we talked about, things and he's like, I'm going to let you see your son, but there's going to be a TBI agent behind you, and I'm going to be behind Dylan. If you even blink your eyes the wrong way, we're going to shut down this meeting. And then he went on to say, we're going to put Dylan in a safe house. He used the word safe house.
Dylan, when I went and saw Dylan at Riverbend, he still was under the impression that he'd been in the witness protection program.
Yeah. So I'm like, they said, okay, he's done his time. He's fixing to be released, but it's not safe for him. It's just not safe for him. I said, it's not safe for him in Atlanta, Georgia. I didn't understand. No. We've got all this mapped out for him. He's going to go to this place where they're going to protect him. So when I met with Dylan, Jeff Jackson was behind Dylan, and Brent Booth was behind me. And I couldn't say anything. I couldn't say anything like,
All right, I'll be right back.
okay.
It's not going to be live with Nicole unless you hear her like screaming at her kids about guacamole or something at one point.
Are we still talking?
Yeah, we're still talking.
So I met with Dylan, and I could see the fear on Dylan's face as a mother, but I didn't blink my eye. I didn't turn my head because, I was told not to. I had somebody sitting behind me. There was somebody sitting behind Dylan. And at this point, Dylan was a free man. He was a free man. He could go out. But they convinced him that he was in danger. So that's how all this. So he left there and went to Dennis Benjamin's.
And that's actually not entirely true.
No.
From my understanding, it's all a mystery because they create these crazy ass scenarios that no one could ever even believe, and then they put it all under seal so that there's no public scrutiny or accountability. But Dylan was not free then, in the sense that they were telling Dylan and you that he was in like WITSEC.
He'd done his time.
But they had his they had him living with Dennis Benjamin. My understanding is as a required condition of his probation. They basically hemmed him up on charges that were, they hemmed him up on BS charges. Beth Boswell did. She's working the Bobo case, and then also at the same time working as a federal DA, and uses her federal position, as she has done multiple times throughout this case, to gain exposure on someone that she can then leverage to force testimony. That's what she was doing. Like, she's done it with, I bet we have people in this chat she's done it too.
So the bottom line is that Dennis Benjamin was going to groom Dylan, okay? We got a call. Can we take it?
Yep.
All right, we're going to spit.
This is a prepaid call from an inmate at the Tennessee Department of Corrections, Morgan County Correctional Expansion
I'll
Complex.
turn it over to you.
Anyone has questions for Zach, now is the time.
To refuse this call, your current balance is $20.33.
Sorry about that.
This call is from a correction facility.
They cut him off.
He'll probably try again. They do that. So they listen to every single call. And if if Zach calls and I'm asking him about anything relevant to anything,
they cut it off.
Yeah. Like,
how is that legal?
Well, I think it's legal. I think that's actually legal. It's just bizarre. Like, what are they so worried about? If they have the right person.
Right.
It's one thing.
Sorry about this. I can't.
In prison, but they have TVI. I think they have TVI around the clock. Listening.
Oh, here we go. Listen, Zachary's not going to give up. He's never going to give up. I love that boy with everything in him.
This is a prepaid call from an inmate at the Tennessee Department of Corrections, Morgan County Correctional Expansion Complex. To accept this call, press 0. To refuse it, your current balance is $20.33. This call is from a correction facility and is subject to monitoring and recording. Thank you for using GTL.
Hey, buddy. Hey.
They cut me off.
Yeah.
Hey.
You're on now.
All right. Well, I just want to thank everybody for all the support that everybody is showing us all the time. Messages, y'all to my mom and Katie and everybody. And I just want to thank everybody. So.
You have a lot of supporters. I think there's a lot of supporters, right? There's a lot of people in here right now that are, excited for you. Do you want to let people know how do you want to talk about how you're doing?
I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging. I'm just leaning on my face right now. But it's been very everyday anxiety of waiting. I know we're gonna get good news. So it's just been anxiety filled. But I try to treat it like a normal day. But it's kind of hard not to think about it. So
yeah, I think that everyone is desperately wanting the ruling to come out.
Yes.
I agree. God's got this. It's going to be on His time. So, we have to remember.
I can hear him.
So it's His will, not ours. So.
Someone wants to know. Oops, I'm still learning how to do this. Someone's wanting to know how you're passing your time. What do you do?
I watch a lot of so during the day. I read. I get a lot of magazines, Rolling Stone, Deer Hut, all the different magazines. And during the day, I read. I usually watch a movie at night, about 6:30, 7 o'clock. I'll watch a movie. We have a couple of apps on the tablet that where I can watch different movies. So I watched a movie today, Plan for Keeps. Forgot what I watched last night. But yeah, I watch movies during the night. I play there's some games stuff on here I play during the day. I also listen to music a lot. They have a Stingray music app on here that I can get all different kinds of music. So that's another thing I listen to. And on Sunday, try to watch a little church. We have a Pando app that we can watch church services and stuff. I kind of get a little church in on Sundays. So.
Someone wants to know.
I always start feeding my daily bread and in touch. That's where I start. Get up early. I start my Bible study. Do that. Take that about 5 minutes quiet here. Do that, and then that's where I start my day. So.
Someone wants to know what's the first thing you're going to do when you're released.
I want to eat a good meal. I want to eat a good steak dinner and see my family.
Steak dinner and see your family. Probably peach ice cream from mom.
Yep.
Yeah. Katie, I think we can make that happen.
Good. So.
But your main thing is to see your grandfather.
Yes, of course. I want to see both. I want to see both of you. I want to see my son. I want to see my granddaddy, and I want to see my mom. So. I've also got Virginia Green. I want to see them. They support me. I call them my God, mom, and daddy. They've been riding this ride with me ever since just all with them. So I want to get them.
Linda Kimball posted they're having ribs right now. They're doing a watch party here with a live stream, so they're cooking up some ribs in your honor. People want to know. I have opinions, but they're not mine. They're yours. So I'll let you talk. People want to know what the transport guards at the PCR hearings were like. If they were nice to you. I think we were watching because we could watch over the course of the PCR hearings the guards' facial expressions, and you could tell how much they were getting into the hearings. I think there's where the interest is coming from. Can you talk about the transport guards and how they treated you?
First I would say hi to Linda. Let Linda know that she's my friend, just pretty much. But no, they was very nice. Miss Porter, that was the lady, and I forget what the guy's name, but it was real nice. They had certain rules that if you really want me talking to y'all in courtroom, there's certain rules, as long as I follow the rules, it was real nice. They was real nice. They treated me real nice. So.
We were really impressed with them. They were, from I know that with Doug and with your team, they were professional. I could tell I think from their facial expressions during the case, you could tell they were bothered by what they were watching. It looked to me.
They were, they couldn't believe the stuff that they heard. But they just the way they are taught or trained, they're really not supposed to give their opinions about the deal. But they did let me know that they thought it was kind of messed up some of the things they heard, and so, but yeah.
You're getting a lot of people want you to know they're believing in you and supporting you. Someone wants to know if you get a lot of hate mail.
I haven't got no hate mail in years now. That don't mean I've had it. That don't mean I'm not getting it. They could be. All those are censored, so the prison or the PBI could be getting them and just not giving them to me. So, not sure about that. Not really sure. I do get a lot of mail, but
you can get mail. We can we'll post your mailing address there, and if people want to send books or letters and what the rules are, like no.
Well, I've got if you write doing letters, it's P.O. Box 247, Phoenix, Maryland is where you see it to now. It's P.O. Box.
And they have to include the return address.
All mail is digital now. We don't get no real letters from anybody. All digital and on this tablet that we have. So, and the books are a little different. The books have to come from aidbooks.com, and then there's another. Usually, Aid is the best place to get the books. So.
Yeah, you can get those direct. We'll post it, or Kinsey is maybe going to take that task. One of us will post it on our social media stuff. Someone asked what a lot of people have asked. What are your feelings toward Jason Autry now?
He finally told you the truth. He finally, I wish he would have got up there and told the court, when standing in front of the court. But I have no hard feelings for Jason. That's part of my being a Christian. I have to forgive. Sometimes it's hard, but that's one of the building blocks.
Can you make sure?
Being a Christian. So I have to do that, and I don't have no hard feelings for Jason. So.
That's consistent with how, even right in the beginning, you were always grateful that he came clean, but I've never encountered you expressing really any hard feelings towards Jason.
We'll never know. We'll never know the behind the door deals that they offered him, what they threatened him with. There's been a lot of people that said things that they been threatened. We'll never know to the extent. A lot of the time they get with threatened, they turn the reporter off. And, who knows what they got threatened with. So, but I don't care what they would have threatened me with. I would have never lied on anybody. Something like this. I literally put my life on the line because I'm innocent, and I would do it again because I'm innocent. And no question about it.
And if there's a follow-up question, what about Dylan? Because you don't get to talk to Dylan at all. Can you talk about seeing Dylan for the first time in court?
Yeah. I miss my brother. I love my brother a lot. He's another one. They manipulated him. We will never know exactly what happened or what they threatened him with.
No, son. Know. We know what they threatened him with. We seen it on the interview.
When they turned the recorder off, and when he was a Dennis Benjamin, we'll never know what he went through. So, but I had no hard feelings for my brother. I love him to death. Love my brother. So when I was seeing afterwards, before he testified, they had us in the hall there, and our guards, they was bringing him down in the bathroom, and he had to walk by us, and they had already said, don't say nothing to your brother to see. And that's one of the only rules that I broke. I seen him, I love you. And he smiled, I love you. But that's the only that's the only rule that I wasn't. I see my brother had seen him almost 12, 13 years, so of course I was going to set him that I love him. So.
What do you want? What do you think people don't get? Like, if there's one thing that people have the hardest time understanding about this whole situation? Like, if you could correct something.
Well, there's a lot of different things. A lot of people put their trust in law enforcement, and I would say 99% of law enforcement is good. It's just the 1% that's bad that makes the rest of them look bad. And a lot of people, when they look on the outside, looking in, they thought, well, he had to have done something, they wouldn't arrest him. That's probably one of the biggest misconceptions.
That's a huge, like, I thought that about, I mean, when I first got Kala's case, that was my first thought about you, was you must have done something.
They give it something to set up, they made me wear a bulletproof vest. Who else do you get to wear a bulletproof vest? People like Timothy McVeigh, people that we know committed heinous crimes. I didn't want to wear no bulletproof vest. All that stuff was part of the setup. So, I could just go on and on. But one of the biggest misconceptions is, people, trust law enforcement. 99% of them are good. It's the 1% that's the bad that gives the rest of them, makes the rest of them look bad. So that would be my biggest takeaway.
I think that to me is the biggest thing between, if I were to identify a difference between you and Jason Autry, I think you were more naive than him at the time all this went down, where you thought you were innocent and therefore you weren't as worried. I think you were not as worried right away. You thought that your innocence would be sufficient to get you out. And I think Jason knew the system more realistically at that point and was not of the same mindset.
Yeah, another thing, we think he stopped out. So I was a lawyer, and I was listening to her. She was saying, "Hey, let's just see what the evidence says." I told her, "There's not going to be evidence. There's not going to be." And she, the longer this went on, I was told to listen to her and trust her. That's what we hired her for, and that's what I did. She told me whenever I walked in the courtroom, not to say anything. I listened to everything that she advised me on. So. I'm down to you testify. She didn't want me to testify, so I didn't testify.
What was it like testifying at the PCR after all these years?
It felt good. I wish it took. When I first got up there, it was a little anxiety. But once I got warmed up, I wish I would have went longer. I wish I could have got some other things out. I wish I would have testified at trial, but.
What do you wish you could have testified?
I always feel like I could do better.
What do you wish you could have testified about that you?
I got everything that I wanted out, but there's just this misconception, about some of the things that I allegedly said. I don't know. I think I got everything I wanted out, but I just feel like that I would have testified at trial, but I would have got. I don't know. I just feel like it would have hit home better.
I felt bad because I feel like the question that you sounded that went over the least well, maybe, was the one about me burying something on Dick's property.
Yeah, I remember us having a conversation, but when we was just talking about that city that was listening, and that's what we would do. We would message them, because we know they listen to our phone calls, and that was something like I remember telling you that, but I don't remember, what exactly. I mean, I remember the conversation I had, but I knew he was messaging these guys because they just listened, so.
Well, and you legit didn't know. You didn't know what it was because I was trying to sound like I was going to bury something on your property because I was sending Brent Booth on a wild goose chase. I had a Nicolas Cage blanket of him being peeled out of a banana that I was going to put on Dick's deer stand. But then Doug wouldn't let me because, yet again, Doug has to ruin everyone's fun just because it's a serious matter.
Yeah. So,
what was your vibe on Wyrick? Did that go how you expected?
What now?
Your vibe on Wyrick, just.
I remember one point I looked at the judge, Brent grave, and I wanted to ask the judge what was the question, because it seems like she wasn't asking no questions. It seems like she was just ranting a lot. And that's my at one point I looked at the judge and I'm like, what's the question? You know what I mean? And then the one, where she asked me about what time, that's one thing I've never seen. I've never had the cell phone data. I've never had that. I've seen talk to teachers with my lawyers and stuff, but I've never had it where I could study it. And even this day, the time and stuff, I know where I was at that day, but not like people said, I didn't keep no journal. So, I mean, it wasn't, like I could tell you every time I used the bathroom that day, but I know where I went. I know what we did. So, that's the only thing.
DB, one of someone listening who's building some content that we're going to put on the channel and looking into some Valerie Trout stuff. I don't know. Someone's pinning these, and I think they're being helpful, but I'm too technologically. Okay. I don't know where that comment went. Where is it? Oh, when did you realize Doug was the real deal? Was there a moment during the hearings that you just knew he was the dog?
Oh, well, I think Doug was good. We had some families that lived in Wicked County. My granddaddy called, and we found out Doug's family was fighting all for years and years and years of Civil War. So we knew he was the real deal, to begin with. So, but after he got chased to recant, he come up there, he came to this prison and lived with snow around. And then he got lost, like because they put him on a road that it was unplowed or anything, and he come up there, whenever you got the reception. I knew that then that he was on something, and it wasn't until we were sitting there, and then Savannah told me that he had dedicated a whole upstairs office to this case, and he really. You did a lot of the legwork, and he just legally put it together. And it's like you said, this thing is just real hard to put together. There's so many moving parts. But if you look, that's what they want you to do. They want to throw this big long story at you, this big lie, and they want you to exclude all these little parts that make no sense, because that could have never happened.
Yeah, it's like
that was so part of the setup.
Yeah, they're hiding damning evidence in plain sight by just data dumping and then confusing people so they don't know what to look at. And it was more than his upstairs. He had a whole separate office down the street, because we called it the Bobo bunker. Doug got so freaked out once because I left a funny / could be perceived as threatening if you didn't get our sense of humor note that I got into the office. He's like, how'd you break in there? I won't tell how it happened.
He sacrificed a lot of his time, like you have, like his kids, his case. He did great. He did great. He did really, really good. So.
And Docket Dakota. So there's a YouTube channel, content creator, Docket Decoder, who's putting out, I think tonight, dropping a really excellent summary of your case that I would encourage everyone to listen to before we drop our episode 13, because we're going to be dropping some major new information in episode 13. And I think Docket Decoder's summary would be a good primer before that. But he wants to know what topics you like to study and read about while you're locked up.
I used to study all the psychological. I do. I'm really been on my face here recently. My grandmother, whenever I first got locked up, she cut out of her Bible Psalm 91. So I read a book the other day about Psalm 91. Psalm 91 is the protection prayer. And so I've been just staying in my Bible and just leaning on my faith. I read. I like a lot of truth stuff. Biography, things like that.
So
anything I can learn from that.
So let me just stop you right there. So we live in the Bible Belt. We do. I have yet to ever had a pastor or a church member to reach out to me or my mom, who was a devout Christian, because it wasn't politically correct. And I just want people to know, these people never, God loves the sinner. And, never am I
will say these chaplains up there did,
yeah, up there. But from your hometown, there's not one pastor that ever reached out to our family. Never. And that broke your grandmother's heart.
When you guys faced a lot of, family members lost jobs and
we had family members to lose jobs. Family members wouldn't even talk to me because they were afraid of losing their jobs. I have so much, I don't know if I want to say hate, but it's just like, bitch, I hope you die. I'm sorry.
But not literally.
Yeah.
In case
Dennis
Benjamin is who's the bitch that's listening.
Yeah. I'm like, I hope you fucking die, because
figuratively.
Yeah. But the heart is so deep. The heart is so deep. If I had somebody, just anybody, to reach out to me and say, I'm praying for your children. There's sons of God, but I didn't have that.
We've had a lot of friends reach out to pray. So,
what do you say?
You said you've had a lot of friends reach out.
I'm not talking, son. I'm not talking about friends. I've had more friends.
I understand that we haven't had no friends.
But I'm talking about the people that influence our community, the pastors and their members and their cults.
It's like the people you'd expect to be the first ones to reach out and support are the ones that act like they're
your grandmother didn't have that, but yet she showed up in church every day. Every Sunday she showed up. It'd be the same as Becky Adams, Zach. The same as Becky Adams.
That's another thing that has hurt me is people getting up into that lost job. My grandmother that was ostracized. My mama that's ostracized over this. People, the innocent people that, I'm innocent. There's still people that give my mama or somebody a bad look or have a preconceived notion just because they have an opinion about something. And that's not right. And that's not the way it should be. So.
No, that's what I'm getting at. We live in the Bible Belt.
I can live with that.
No, I fucking can't live with it. I can't. I'll never get over that. I won't get over that. I'll never get over the way they treated your grandmother and the way they treated Dick. They treated Dick so bad.
It seems like they still do.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, you're right, Nicole. You're right. It's just that Dick doesn't go out as much. Like he goes, he don't go to Parsons to do his business. He goes to other places, just like me. I don't go to Parsons anymore. I avoid it like the plague. I avoid it because.
Well, I want y'all to know when I get out, I'm gonna be all up in Parsons. Y'all got an opinion? Don't come talk to me. I'll be willing to talk to anybody. I am that one.
Zach's mother and I don't think that that's the best idea, but
no, and these people, they don't want to talk. They've already formed their opinion. They've already, the Holy Grail has already been, they did it. And, there's the stupidity. It is just astounding. It's just astounding.
And there's so many layers because I have a lot of empathy for, I guess, I can see how it happens when you trust law enforcement and you trust a story because there's so much gaslighting that happened with the TBI and then people's opinions get cemented on that. But the hate that you all have to experience, I remember feeling it in court just when it's like you can hear someone and believe them, but until you feel it.
I said, I thrive on the hate. I love the hate. That's what gives me drive. That's what gives me drive. I mean, and I hate to say that, but over the years, over 12 years, I've been thinking they're going to kill me all the time. My first said, why ain't you going to get it? They tell me all the time they're going to kill me in prison. Why ain't you going to get it? And I just thrive on that. I hate to be like that, but I try to thrive. Any kind of negativity, I try to turn it around and be positive. I feed on that. And I know for somebody out there that they probably don't realize or can understand that, but that's what I've had to learn to do. I've had to take that and use it for food, use it for drive. And that's what I've done.
I mean, when you're going to encounter it either way, I guess, what are you going to do? You're going to use it to drive you or to get in your way.
I used to dwell on it. I used to dwell on it and try to change people's mind and stuff. And I've done come up to one. Everybody's gonna have an opinion, and God knows the truth. That's all that matters at the end of the day. So, I think everybody. I think a lot of the media and a lot of people are starting to see the truth. Nobody wants to think law enforcement will set somebody up, but it does happen.
And a lot of people want to believe their pastors. And if they did any research whatsoever, this particular pastor, he has a past. It runs deep. It runs deep. But you don't hear about that. But if you do your research, you can find out that, the spokesperson for the Bobos has a past.
That could be a spin-off podcast in and of itself, I think.
Mm-hmm. So,
well, I don't have much longer. It's going to cut me off here in about a minute or two. So,
I love you, son.
Thank everybody.
Thank you, Zach. I'm going to hand you back to your mom.
You have 1 minute remaining.
I love you. I love you, son. All right.
Thank you for using GTL.
I'm always curious
if really
reactions to Zach are, because I feel like people often expect something really different. Sorry, Nicole.
No, I was just going to say, I just really hope that Zach gets to be able to look at these people in the face and say exactly what he thinks when it's all said and done, like, look at the damage they've caused.
Well, I don't like Cindy. I don't think it's gotten any easier, has it at all?
No. And Zach is probably a little more forgiving than I am.
I get that. I could forgive someone if someone fucked with my kids.
Yeah,
right.
It's just like, you don't know when you go to get your hair done, to get your nails done, which I don't do that anymore. But you feel it.
Right. Whereas he's sheltered from all of it. So,
yeah. But Zach had Zach has a heart of gold. I mean, he'll, bless his heart, he thinks that he'll be able to get out and just things will be right, but he's really clueless because, unfortunately, we live in a world where whatever was said in the dark, came to light, but people still are going to believe in the dark.
Right. He and I have talked about that when he does get out, he can't live in Parsons. He has to move away.
He thinks he's good.
So he lives where his grandfather has property on the north side of Parsons, and he can very well build that up to where he can control who comes in and who goes out. But Zach's main concern right now is his grandfather.
Right.
I think his grandfather is holding on. He's 92 years old. He's old. He wants to see his grandson, and that's what he's waiting for. He wants to see his grandson. And that man has been through so much. I mean, even during this last part of the trial, the Bobos attacked him. Karen Bobo's mama hit him. And
That's who that was that hit him? That was Karen's mom?
Karen's mom, yes, hit him.
Dana shoved him, didn't he, too?
Yeah, Dana shoved.
Dana's out of control at the hearings. He's just the grief and anger. He needs to,
And so the next day we're in court. Who do they protect? The Bobos.
Right.
The Bobos.
Right.
And I'm sorry. From one mother to another, you should never have to bury your child or live through what they went through. But for them to attack Dick, who had nothing to do with anything except for being the grandfather, he won't even go back to court because of that. There was never an apology. There was never, I don't know if you know, but during Zach's first trial, the Bobos, they were transported daily in a police car. And
is that typical?
No.
And I totally get the deep anger, and it would seem so unfair. No one's trying to hurt the Bobo. No one's after the Bobo.
Right.
No,
they're not at high risk for people attack. And you're getting death threats. I would think if anyone needs a police escort, it would be
I got a state trooper escort to my car when they came back with the verdict. They had buses, they had snipers, everything, and I got state trooper to walk me to my car. They didn't give a shit, how I was going to get home, or, because after the verdict, I physically, I don't know what happened, but I got sick. I was just like throwing up, and, I was like, oh God, just let me make it to my car. But
now, Cindy, can I ask you a question?
Certainly.
Does it make you nervous at all to be, I know it is for your son and to get him out of prison, but does it make you nervous at all that you're going to be tossed back into that spotlight?
I've never left the spotlight. Never. That's a good question. And I guess I'll have to cross that bridge when I come to it. I have maybe 3 friends, and they're always telling me how strong I am. I'm not. I'm not that strong. But you know what, Nicole, I'm not going to bow down. I'm not going to bow down.
Good for you.
And I moved back here from Atlanta to be closer to my sons and my grandson and my mom. And even living in Atlanta, I got so much hate from people online. Just I got hate from the friggin' prison. I mean, people would send me letters. You better watch your back, blah, blah, blah. So it's never ending. No.
I think you were Cindy was a teacher. I mean, you're a retired school teacher. So you had a lot of these people and these people and their children in school.
But see, now, let me just say this. I've had a bunch of support, like from people that like sent me private messages. Okay. That would be like, I don't want you to post this, or I don't want you to mention me, but we're behind you and we don't understand and blah, blah, blah. So, what do? You read those comments and I cry. I just cry.
I can imagine how you must feel sometimes, like you just want to change your name and move away and just forget about it. But
I do, but Nicole, at some point, I want to clear my name. I want to clear my boy's name, and I want to fight for the injustice. I mean, there's just so much injustice that happened, and there's still people in Decatur County that believe that injustice.
I think there are still people in Decatur County that are being protected by it, and
that's so scary. It's so scary.
It is.
The people that you're supposed to call to protect you.
It is. Let's just say that I try to live off grid as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably going to be the way it is the rest of my life. But I don't think Zach and Dylan, I fear for them in the long run, regardless, even if they're acquitted or if they're, the political aspect to all this is so deep, people don't even realize it, Nicole. Listen, I graduated in 1994 and I didn't do an interview. I didn't do anything. It was all political. I was hired. It didn't matter what my stance was. It didn't matter. We had the political pull then. And yeah. So that's good. So I mean, it's so political here.
Yeah.
And you don't really know what side to be on. And I'm guilty. I'm guilty of, like, I accepted the teaching job without an interview, without anything, because the person that pulled for me was politically correct. So, I mean, I understand the politics of it all. I understand. But, Nicole, I think this runs so deep. And I know Katie's going to figure this out. She
I have no doubt.
listen.
I have no doubt.
She is. Of course, I prayed and I've prayed and I've prayed, and God sent me Katie. She sent us Katie. And
A lot of people think I'm sent by one side or the other when I enter somebody's life, and it's not always.
No, I mean.
Well, listen, if I ever go missing, you're the one Adam better call you.
And
he won't need to call. He'll.
And Nicole, you know what's so funny is, let's talk about Sky. So, Sky, what's her last name? Pinkley.
Oh, okay.
So she contacted me and wanted me to know that, Katie wanted to reach out to me, and I was like, no, I can't do this, because after a certain point, when something like this happens, to me, this is how I handled it. I pushed it so far back in my memory that, I couldn't see any way out. Okay.
Right.
I would imagine having to have your hopes dashed over and over again.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And so I didn't even want to talk to Katie. I was like, oh, again, here we go. But I did.
And I think you were one of the last people, because Nicole, Nicole and I went and talked to neighbors. I mean, we talked to we talked to a lot of people before. I was hesitant because there's a weight to that. It's like, I don't want to open up a wound if I don't.
Yeah, but Katie, when I told Katie that I almost didn't talk to her, she's like, oh, I would have found a way.
Oh, yeah. But then we were going to talk. It was just, I just have to show up at her house and pull a Janet Britt and just.
But
yeah. How are they, by the way? How are all Jan and Terry? How are they doing?
A source has told me that they're afraid to leave their house and don't answer their door and don't come out. Apparently.
Weird.
And apparently they're not a big fan of me.
I went to school with Janet. She was our valedictorian.
Was she weird then? Like, what was she like then?
Yeah, we talked about.
She was like, she kept to herself. Like, now when I look back at it, I feel like maybe she was being abused at home.
Mm-hmm.
When I look back now, I can't confirm that. I'm not, I'm just, that's just the way I see it now, because, she was the valedictorian. She never took it to college or anything. And, but she was real reclusive.
Like a sociopath.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, yeah.
I'm not saying she is or isn't. I don't know if I need to say allegedly or something, but just she was reclusive, and she's very smart.
She's very smart. But, it's just somebody like, she had this like wall around her that, nobody really talked to her.
Yeah.
It's like.
And you replaced Karen when she said, like,
right. So when I was hired as a teacher, Karen Bobo had taught math at the Parsons Junior High School for years. Okay. Now Zach had Miss Karen, fourth grade math, and he excelled. He freaking was off the chart. And he loved her. He loved her. So she requested a transfer to Scottsdale because what she told me, and this is what she told me. She said, now our principal was Grafton Dodd.
Oh.
And she was like, it's time to move when you walk into the room with a motherfucker that you want to kill every day. That's what she said to me. I was like, okay. But yeah.
Not an ideal work situation.
She didn't get along with the principal there, but
Grafton Dodd, is that any relation to Jonathan Dodd?
It's his grandfather.
Oh.
And Jonathan was, I would say Jonathan was on the spectrum.
Okay.
Yes.
Brooklyn 10952, why is she still married to this freak?
I don't imagine she's got a lot of options, to be honest with you.
I think
birds of a feather flock together. Okay.
I think there's a pattern that's so you end up with one violent serial rapist. I guess oopsie is on you, and maybe it's bad luck. But 2 in a row. So Janet's husband prior to Terry was a Decatur County sheriff's deputy who was sent to, they had foster children in their care. And he was abusing the foster girls and videoing it. And Janet was complicit in it, and was one of the girls tried to write a letter out to, I think, her family or somebody for help. And Janet intercepted it and blocked her from getting. So Janet was she was involved in that. And I know that Doug and Dana will be watching this, and I'm probably already in trouble for several things. So I'll just stop there. But season 2 is going to branch out into a lot of we're going to go down some real interesting rabbit holes.
Do you think in season 2 we'll talk about whether or not Jan ever managed to get Terry his damn catalogs?
Do you want to? Will you talk about the catalog?
Is that okay to talk about?
Would you like to, Nicole? Will you talk about your impression? So Nicole and I think make a good team when we go and interview people or we're talking to people, because we're just seeing them through very different lenses. Like I'm kind of looking from this clinical lens, and you'll catch things that once you say them, I feel stupid for not even considering or thinking about. But it's like you just have really good. Nicole is extremely perceptive and reads people well. And I don't know. I think that when you do this for a living, you can get desensitized sometimes, where you don't always realize how like crazy stuff is.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, because you're used to the crazy.
Yeah, it's like sometimes you forget that that's not a normal thing to hear. Or I'm curious, what was your? I'll say it, like, as a professional who is pretty like dead inside and desensitized. It affected me going through, like, the extent of Britt's record is not easy to palate.
No. And
what was it like for you hearing his calls, and just what was your?
I would tell my husband that I was getting like PTSD from listening to his calls. He's such a fucking asshole. Like, it's insane. It's insane how mean he was to Jan.
Did you feel sorry for? Because I have weird, complicated feelings about Janet. Listening to those, it's like you feel sorry for Janet, but then you don't.
I know. Well, there were times where he was being an asshole and she would just kind of like take it. And then there's other times where she would speak up and be like, shut the fuck up, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, you tell him. But yeah, she's just as bad. Yeah.
But yeah, he wanted her protected.
Yeah. And he was a jealous fuck too. Sorry for my potty mouth, everybody, but
I know we're offended.
So bad.
Anyone who censored that has already left, I'm sure, and sent us a message asking us to be better.
Well, and then listening to it, I always thought that maybe he was jealous, thinking that she was there with another man. But then on the other hand, I'm like, I wonder if he's not jealous like that if he was suspicious that she was going against him.
But here's my question for that. So she participated in a lot of his actions. You know, she literally would pick out the girl.
Right.
And so I just find that so strange. You know, why would he be jealous when she was watching?
Right.
So maybe he was jealous because he couldn't watch. I don't know.
Well, if she's not participating in the physical things, like maybe it was something where he was allowed to and she wasn't.
Right. It make it make sense, you know.
I don't think we can.
I don't.
He would badger her. He was so mad. He was obsessed with catalogs, and he just wanted her to send him catalogs. He wanted a cross necklace,
what
a
kind of
guitar or
catalog?
something,
What
like
kind of catalog?
so he could order things. I guess there was one time a month where you could special order stuff in the prison and get packages. And
I don't know where their money came from.
They were very, like, they would go over what she spent in a day, and they would like go over the checkbook together. And it was very clear that there was a certain amount that always had to be in the safe and nobody should know about. They was very secretive about all of the money.
Yeah,
It was very odd, very odd.
So do you think that they're part of a bigger story that's happening?
I do.
100%.
I think there's absolutely
100%.
I mean,
100%. Yeah.
I
Yes.
am. Yeah.
Their hands are not clean of anything.
Yeah. I'm just curious because how can they find so much evidence from Britt to only let it go, you know, to swing back to the boys. And when I say the boys, I don't want to exclude Shane whatsoever, right, because his parents, you know, they're wonderful people. They're wonderful people. And, you know, even if Zach gets justice or gets a retrial or whatever, you know, it's still not going to bring their son back. You know, he just didn't want to bring any more shame to his parents. And, you know, my heart hurts for them. It does.
And Shane just didn't. I mean, it's like your
Shane
regular
gave
problems
up.
don't go away when you have TBI chasing after you and harassing you. He was struggling with drugs. He you know, struggling with his mental health. And then to have everyone in the community thinking you're guilty
against you. Right. No. And having the TBI tell you that they're going to bankrupt his parents.
Yeah, but listen,
save him.
Shane had one hell of an attorney. I'm going to tell you this. It was his cousin. I can't think of
Paul Bruno.
Yeah,
I didn't know they were cousins. He's a good attorney. He's a judge now.
But you know, Shane, that couldn't touch Shane. Couldn't touch him. And I know that I'll probably get in trouble for saying this. I don't think Shane took his own life. I really don't. Just like I don't think that Sky died the way she did.
Oh no, I don't either.
Sky was murdered. I think Sky was killed, and I think it had to do with this case.
Yeah.
And has anybody been in touch with Autry since he disappeared?
Yeah, he's having
heart
He's in a medical facility right now.
Yeah. But technically, Jason was in a gang in prison. And when he turned on Zach, he really had to watch his back, because you don't do that in prison.
Right.
And so they offered him the sweetheart deal, and he had no choice but to take it, because his days were numbered. So,
well, and I think it's really easy to hate on Jason Autry. I see him as another victim in this case, and he was someone who, he's a big guy, and in a fight he's going to have the upper advantage, but in the criminal justice system he's vulnerable. He was extremely vulnerable for a lot of reasons, and I get the perspective of him coming into this where Dylan, and I think he probably understood less. My take on Jason was that he kind of understood less of Dylan's memory.
Jason was in Obion County with Dylan.
Oh yeah. Well, they had Jason with Dylan. Mm-hmm. Jason was also in Obion County with Terry Britt. Mm-hmm. They were putting him in, and that was not on, and Anthony Phoenix, which that name comes up and is relevant.
Dylan would tell me that Jason would talk to him about Christ, and that he was really into God and really trying to change his life around. And because I was like, oh my God, stay away from him.
They're on their way.
So that in the end, Jason demonstrated more moral clarity than Jennifer Nichols ever did. That is 100% accurate. And we needed a Jennifer Nichols. I like that. We need.
That's fun.
Something. I can see Jason's position in that. So Shane, Dylan, and Zach were together that day for the majority of the day. Jason and Zach, it's less clear whether they were together or not at any point. Just they don't remember. But
well,
so in
wait a minute. Let me just say this. So if Zach was picking up morphine or whatever for Shane, for them to get fucked up.
Well, that was different. That was that was a different.
Oh, that was different. Okay, because
it was like Xanny bars or something, right?
That was from. Well, she's deceased now. Marsha Gay White was a drug dealer, and she lived in a house behind a barbecue shop.
Right.
TBI went and confirmed she was there and confirmed that story, and then never went and talked to her, and then she died in 2019, along with a lot of other people in this case. The amount of people in this case who have died in the last, it's uncanny. But I guess
it's pretty interesting.
My point with Jason is just, I can get the perspective that he's in that he's not understanding why Dylan's talking about him. Like, he doesn't understand why he was put in the story because they were together and he wasn't that day. So I think Jason at some point kind of questioned, well, did they have something? No one really knew who did it or who was guilty.
Right.
And
I think he was kind of also like, fuck you guys for bringing me into this, I
think he felt like that. And I think they really played the relationship. That's why I think they wanted multiple co-defendants, so they could play them against each other. Because that is the Memphis way: overcharge and plea out. And you want to have, the best thing you can do is get 4 vulnerable people and charge them all, and get them to start leaning on each other, whether it's true or not. But I think that Zach and Dylan being brothers, and then Shane being close, because Shane and Autry weren't close even though they were cousins. Shane was definitely closer with Zach. I think that Jason probably felt like he was the odd man out because the brothers would probably stick together, and Shane was closer in his viewpoint.
Well, there was an age difference too, right? How much older is Autry than Shane?
You know what's interesting about, because Shane's what, 20 years older about?
No,
I
Jason would be. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
she
You said Shane.
Oh,
Yeah, it's fine.
yeah,
We
Jason.
knew what you meant.
The first investigative reports that were collected on each of them, it's like, as an investigator, if you wanted to set this thing up and know how to move the chess pieces around, it's like someone read those first investigative reports and just profiled them. Zach says in his that he knows he didn't have anything to do with it, and he knows Jason Autry didn't have anything to do with it, and he says that Jason Autry is like a brother to him, and just they're very close, and like he was expressing there's a sense of loyalty that I perceived in the IR. And Jason said that he doesn't have any information on Zach having anything to do with it, and if he did, he'd turn him in and get a truck with the money.
Yeah. Or a boat. Was it a boat?
The IR, it was a truck, but I think
Oh, but he changed it.
yeah, I mean, he was talking about a boat too, but I think that's,
Mhm.
I think that Zach felt more loyalty to Jason than Jason did to Zach.
Well,
they were also so young when this started.
right. So, every time Zach was ever arrested in his life, if he did it, he would confess that he did it. I mean, he didn't hide that. And I know when he was in jail in Camden, Jason broke into his house, and he was sleeping in his house, hiding out more or less from the law. And then Zach's grandfather would always go check in on the house, maybe every 2 or 3 days. And he found the door was kicked in, and he found Jason. Of course, he carried a shotgun with him, and told him to get out. So
I just think Dick and Jason and a shotgun.
Yeah,
I don't know who I
no.
bet on with that one.
No.
My money be on Dick.
Yeah. So, just when they first got arrested, even, his antics going into the courtroom, we didn't do this, we didn't do this.
Right. Free. What did he say? Innocent man.
Yeah. Innocent man walking. And they had his handcuffs too tight. And you got company.
Yeah. Sorry. I have to hop off, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
Taking my kids to the soccer game.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
We'll follow up soon. Hopefully we'll get a ruling soon, and we'll be back on for that. Thank you. Someone was asking who you are, so I'll tell people again while you're getting off. Nicole is the person who provided a lot of pro bono labor on this case with me, and had been going through the bank boxes and doing a lot of the research with me. And she went with me to Morgan County to the first interview I did with Zach, and then also to see Jason Autry at Shelby County, and several other, like we went to see the Austins and some neighbors interviews as well. But the case better than about anyone in the world, really.
We appreciate your support so much.
Oh, of course. I mean,
so much.
I'm in it to win it. Let's go.
And she's can I say what county resident you are?
Sure.
Yeah, Nicole's a Sumner County resident. And you voted already?
I have not, but I do need to early vote because the actual voting day I won't be here.
Sumner County.
Please.
Go Begley.
Michael Begley, come on. If you know anyone in Sumner County, or you are in Sumner County, make sure you do not skip the polls. Every vote counts. And the primaries are where the judicial seat is going to be determined. So May 5th is the day.
Yep. Get out and vote. It's important.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye, guys.
Bye. So are we answering questions over here?
Yeah, a lot of people want to know what your experience has been with the delay in the court ruling coming out.
Well, I'm kind of going with the no news is good news. It varies, from day to day. It varies. I mean, I just don't want to rush the judge into making the wrong decision just because of time. I'm in it to win it, and I cry a lot. I do. I cry a lot at night. I pray and I cry, and that's all I can do. You can't control things that you can't control. I mean, I have no idea why it's taken so long, but I do have a selective group of friends that encourages me every day. They text me every day, and they're just like, today's going to be a good day. And I appreciate all that. It's just,
and I think that we lucked out on. I think we have a judge who paid attention, who is ethical and cares about doing the right thing and doing his job justice. I don't have any concerns about our judge. And nothing about this case is normal at all. And it is a situation where this is going to be a mammoth ruling.
Yes.
And
monumental.
Realistically, I mean, he's still having a full docket, and I don't know, it's hard on one hand to think that just this daily stuff takes precedence. And at the same time, it's the reality of the job that you have when you're a judge. But I'm not worried. I don't think Doug's worried. I don't think Dana's worried. I don't think anyone, I know Zach's in good spirits about it, is not worried. I think it would be easy to get a ruling maintaining the conviction out in 90 days compared to writing the one that would overturn it. That's just that would be a lot more work and a lot more writing. And if I were in that judge's position, I would be knowing that my ruling's going to get overturned for sure, no matter what. And it's going to be facing a lot of judicial attention, a lot of media attention. It's going to be picked apart. And frankly, the best thing for Zach is that the judge takes his time and doesn't miss anything important. And I think we're steadfast in, we know that we're on the right side of the truth, and the better the judge is able to appreciate that and to address the totality of the evidence in his ruling, the better it's going to be. So we're not like upset or thinking, oh, this judge is like skirting his responsibilities at all. I think that he's probably more anxious than anyone to get it out, and I would imagine is doing his best to do so. I will say I did fine until the date that the 90-day mark. And ever since then, it's like every day I wake up and I just can't, it's like hard to focus on anything else. And then once it gets like 4:45, 5, where it's like, okay, there's probably not gonna be anything today. And then it's like, then the evening, I'll start to feel a little bit normal. And then I'll think, holy shit, what is Cindy going through right now? Because I can't, I am having a hard time, man. I just can't imagine what it would be like for you in that situation.
Yeah.
How exhausting it would be. And
it is. It's taxing. It is, but when you pray for things, sometimes you just have to wait and see what God has in store. and that's hard to understand. But I don't want to ever question God. But it's just a hard situation, and but I'm gonna hang in there, and you know I'm still gonna pray every day, and it's not gonna change who I am. I'll say this, that I'm very reluctant to leave my home, to go anywhere, to do anything, because I'm waiting for that call. I'm waiting for Katie's call to tell me, okay, he ruled. Because if I'm out, you know, eating or shopping, I don't want to be there and, you know, have a meltdown. And I'm going to have a meltdown either way. I mean, it's going to be there.
It'll be a good meltdown.
Yeah. But we're just hanging in there.
If Zach is granted a retrial, will you be filing for a bail hearing? Yeah, that'll be the first thing. I don't think Zach will ever get retried. I don't think he will ever have another trial. I think the conviction, I am confident the conviction will be overturned.
Is there anything else that people have questions about? I mean, I know I talk about being in the Bible Belt and how hurt I am that no pastor or church members have reached out to me. But you know what? You don't have to have all that. You know, you just have to have a relationship with God. And again, I just want to stress that this is not about bashing the Bobos, or this is not about not recognizing their loss. But, you know, I have two sons that have been charged with a crime that they didn't do.
One family's grief and suffering does not negate another's.
Mm-mm.
And they're unfortunately so many. It's like the victims in this case have just webbed outward.
Now,
by
in hindsight, I'm going to say this, that I don't understand why the Bobos have not. I don't know if they've watched any of the videos. I don't know why they're not questioning, you know, what's going on. You know, I don't know the lies that the TBI or the DA is telling them. But as an educated person, I do my own research. You know, I don't depend on what I hear. I don't depend on the TBI. I don't. You know, research it. Watch the information. You know, what's been put out there. You can't put it out there if it's a lie, because you're setting yourself up for trouble. So my message to them is, you know, maybe you might want to rethink this whole situation. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm truly sorry for your loss.
It's a tragedy.
It is.
Someone asked, why did Clint Bobo change his story so many times?
Let's talk about Clint.
I frankly don't think Clint actually did change his story a whole lot. I think that was exaggerated. I don't think, and episode 13, which we have planned for release after the rulings coming out, which I agreed to on the scheduling of these when I thought there was going to be a 90-day. So we're ready for this episode to come out as soon as the ruling comes out. But the episode's titled Occam's Razor, and the question everyone has been asking, are Clint and Karen Bobo lying? We have gone through in depth and detail, and with we're going to be dropping some new information and some new evidence that's going to throw this case upside down in a lot of ways. But all to say,
what can we say about Clint right now, though?
Well, I think with Clint, though, right now, in terms of his testimony or his story, I don't know that his story really changed that significantly. Now, he was accused of his story having changed, but Clint's story was really one of the most consistent across any. I mean, if you look at the witnesses who testified, I think Clint would win the most consistent testimony award, which is not a high bar in this case. But with Clint's testimony and his statement, to me, it was less about his story changing in significant ways and more about the story just didn't make any sense to anyone. It was bizarre. Like the first initial story was bizarre, and the bizarre aspects of it kind of stayed. It was hard to make any sense of.
So, but we can't talk about anything else about Clint. Nothing.
Right
Shut up, Cindy.
We're not talking about anything right now.
Okay.
Because we need to
Okay. Next question.
But if there's aspects of Clint's story that you're specifically wondering about, asking about, I mean, in terms of changes, there was a report that he had changed from saying it was camo to all black on one occasion, but Clint was interviewed by Terry Dykes about that. And when he was presented with a report that he had purportedly said that, his answer to the TBI agent was that they must have gotten that wrong, that he doesn't think he ever said that. And I'll believe Clint on that one, knowing nothing else, because there has been investigative report after investigative report after investigative report of just, I'm sorry, it's just bullshit. It's like, this is just not accurate information. When I think that's why they don't want me talking to anybody or knowing anything, because they don't want someone to realize that they're all full of shit and their investigative reports are not accurate or honest. They're just writing stuff and it's not corresponding to what people actually said. So if somebody tells me that what they said or reported was not consistent with an investigative report, I'm going to believe the person over the IR. So there are some inconsistencies in the report.
So, but what about the report that was never reported?
So, well, I can't get past Clint seeing Holly being dragged off. So this is super interesting, being dragged off into the woods without so much as a "you okay, Holly?" It breaks my brain. Same. I had the same concern, and I am really looking forward to dropping episode 13, because I will say that for me, the case finally makes sense with some new evidence that we uncovered, and it has never made sense until now.
Well, and you got to go back to what Clint initially told his mom.
Well, Clint initially didn't think so. People look at Clint's reaction to a stranger abduction and think
he didn't think it was a stranger.
I mean, what he was telling his mom was that he thought it was Drew, and in his, I mean, he was confident it was Drew and had reason to believe that it was Drew because, I mean, he was dressed in hunting attire that was similar. He knew Drew was going to be hunting that day. Clint's behavior to me is consistent with someone who thought their sister was out in the carport having a fight with her boyfriend and possibly breaking up. And I think most brothers aren't going to, I think that Clint genuinely didn't perceive there to be an immediate danger. I think he was confused that Holly was still home because Holly tended to be real punctual, and he knew she had school. I'm not sure if he was totally aware that she had an exam or not, but he knew, but I'm not sure if it was before or after just he talked to his mom and all that day. But I think that his statements and his behavior are all consistent with someone who thought that his sister was with her boyfriend.
Just keep that in mind, who Clint said it was.
I think that if you look at what Clint saw, Clint's behavior is consistent with Clint's reporting. Whether so whether someone's right or not, Clint wasn't behaving one way, and then after the fact coming up with a story that doesn't really jive with that. It was hard to make sense of why he thought it was the boyfriend, and then the person looked different when they were walking out in the woods. And I think that we all suffer from, it's easy in hindsight. I mean, so many people you see, and I can't imagine the heat that he was under for so long, but with, everyone just, well, your mom told you that it wasn't him and told you to get a gun and told you, like, you didn't react. And why didn't you react? And I think most people in their 20s have been in situations where they felt like they had a parent overreacting. And if they are believing what they're perceiving in their environment in real time, it's an interesting situation that I am looking forward to helping us all understand better. But the dragged out in the woods Clint wasn't, Karen actually was the first one that made that statement in the 911 call, if I remember right, that Holly had been like drug out in the woods, but that didn't come from Clint. Memory contamination and memory drift is for sure a real thing. And what makes someone more vulnerable to memory drift or memory contamination, and what I mean in those terms are, we all naturally will remember things differently over time. The more frequently you tell a story, the more vulnerable you are to factual errors. Our memory is reconstructive by nature, which means when we remember something, it's not like a video that we can, I sound old, like plop in the VCR. It's not like a video that you pull up and you watch and you put back in its place when you're done. The way our brains actually work to encode memory we remember snapshots of events, and typically they're the snapshots or the moments that are outside of our expectations or different from what we anticipated. And then we use our reasoning to fill in the gaps. Like when you drive to work in the morning, you believe and feel as though you remember driving to work because you can put a mental image to that experience, and you have a belief in that firsthand knowledge, but your actual genuine recollections are next to nothing. You may remember a moment or not, but then you got to work that day, you remembered going out to the car, the route you take, so you fill those gaps in. And the problem with memory that makes it susceptible to contamination is when you remember an event and talk about it, you bring it out into your short-term immediate memory as you're discussing it. You're re-encoding it every time you rehearse or recollect. You re-encode that memory as a new memory. And when you do that, your brain is really not good at distinguishing what's an actual episodic memory from what's your reasoning filling in the gaps, especially when you recollect it and then you re-encode it. You're remembering the judgment calls you make about, well, I must have done this or that, or I had my phone, so I think I left it in the bathroom, so I must have gone in there when you fill in those, it becomes a mess where you don't remember what you remember from what you just believe you may have remembered. And younger individuals, I'm saying 20s and under, people with more passive personalities, people with stronger, more authoritative or dominant personality types close to them are going to be more susceptible to especially memory contamination in unusual events. Young adults seek reassurance or confirmation before reacting to a situation that is atypical or unusual. They question themselves. If you're in an emergency situation and someone needs to react quickly and accurately, you better hope there's a mom there in her 40s or up, because they don't give a fuck. They're going to ask questions later and make sure everyone's safe first. A 20-year-old is going to make sure that they're not overreacting or thinking something that might be embarrassing to them. It's just how our brains work. And they're wanting someone else to confirm that something unusual is happening, because it's normal. We're going to fill in the gaps with things that are typical or normal. I think it's very normal that you thought, well, there must be a water meter or someone reading a meter out, because that's typically when we hear dogs barking at our house and we hear a family member outside talking to someone, we're not thinking, oh, it's an abductor that's come to perform, it's a stranger abduction and my sister's getting kidnapped. Like, it's just, you're not going to think that unless there's obvious indication. And there's just nothing in Clint's account or story that would suggest that he's, frankly, if he was lying, I think he would have lied in a way that would have made him sound better. I think his story isn't helpful to him. It's not a story of him being a hero and doing the right thing. Typically, when people are lying, they lie in ways that are helpful. Very much like Zach and Dylan and Shane. When people commit crimes for which they need an alibi, and they know they're going to need an alibi, they typically come up with one that doesn't involve illegal drug sales and purchase. Like, that's not like the only time that someone who has a drug addiction is not out buying drugs is when they need an alibi. They're going to find something legal to do with their time that they can corroborate and provide records of and remember. So I think that Clint's memory is not perfect, but I think there are some data gaps that we have all suffered from. We didn't have all the information we needed to make sense of Clint's story. And I think with episode 13, we might.
So did you cover everything about Clint?
That we can probably talk about now without me getting in trouble.
Ask some more questions. See what.
Anyone else? Any questions that we didn't cover or get to? Who brought Karen her phone after she left it at the school? Kim Duncan, who is her sister and is Whitney Duncan's mother. They both taught there. That's the statement, was that Karen had left her phone in the classroom because they weren't supposed to have it with her. And so she left with Terry Brumley, used Terry Brumley's phone to call 911. And then Kim Duncan later left school to come to the search and brought Karen's phone. I haven't seen anything in the records to convince me that's not true. And I think there are some people in this chat that are Truth and Transparency fans. I'm a Truth and Transparency fan. I love Lana. Lana's been looking into this case and has found had some really valuable insight and input. There are some things that Lana and I disagree on. So, and we're both happy to agree on what we agree on and disagree on what we don't. And I think iron sharpens iron. So I think we'll both come to the truth more quickly if we keep disagreeing until one of us convinces the other we're right. So I think that's our plan. I think, do we have any last questions for Cindy before we sign off for the evening? I'm sure I've missed things. Or if Kinsey, if there's something that's been popping up that I have missed. Can you tell us how Britt kidnapped his victims? What's unusual about Britt from a criminal history standpoint compared to a lot of sexual offenders with similar rap sheets, Britt would often have an accomplice. He would procure victims for others or lure victims for others. He would kidnap and assault with another offender as opposed to by himself, sometimes males, sometimes females, sometimes one of his wives, sometimes others. He tended to stay close to his vehicle. He would often drug women. He had Jello shots that he would spike, that he would be giving people in parking lots, which I guess public service announcement, never accept a Jello shot given to you in a parking lot. But I think he was legitimately like selling them sometimes in the bars where people wouldn't have any reason to think that he was spiking them. He was presenting himself as a bar employee. But he would often drug them to incapacitate them. He would typically drag them out into the woods, and he tended to torture his victims and assault them over and over again for hours upon hours. He had victims that he had for 8+ hours that he was repeatedly physically assaulting them. He tended to really get off on the fear factor, it seemed, of just trying to scare them, telling them what he was going to do to them. He would tell them he's going to kill them. He was violent and sadistic. He was a textbook violent and sadistic offender where he...
Well, he also had Jan as his, Jan would go in a lot of times and pick out these women who were single that maybe didn't have family members, maybe, she, would let them confide in her, and then they would leave, and that's the end of the story.
I don't think that Jan is a and I'm not going to say anyone's not a domestic violence victim. I do not think Jan was a textbook domestic violence victim. A lot of the law enforcement officers that were investigating this case seemed to be of the impression that she was just so gaslit and intimidated and threatened by Terry Britt that she was just kind of this hopeless victim. The money was in Janet's name. The property is in Janet's name. Janet managed the business dealings they had together. Terry relied on Janet for his alibi, what he was going to tell police. Terry Britt did not like talking to police without Janet either present or advising him on what to do. She was running the show. And with violence comes coercion and control. It's highly unusual to have a domestic violence perpetrator that's not at least attempting to gain control over the victim's environment, including finances. Knowing that the narrative is that she was a victim of Terry Britt, I was surprised by how their records were kept, because it was not consistent with the idea that Janet was under Terry Britt's control.
Right.
So I think on that.
Any other questions?
Is there anything we can do for you?
Mm-mm.
Plan some protests for May 5th, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, prayer. Just, pray.
And spread, talk about it, share it. That it really makes a bigger deal than you can imagine, because
Just
injustice thrives in secrecy.
watch the videos and don't be stupid. Don't before you regurgitate your opinion, be knowledgeable. Investigate. That's what I did.
Yeah.
I researched deep. I went into dark places that I would have never thought I'd gone to find the truth of some of these things that's going on in our county. And it's scary. It is like, it's deep. It's very deep. And just pray for my sons. And I just want to say one last thing is I will never, ever forget the way they treated Dylan.
Is unforgivable and indefensible.
I will. I can't to this day watch the interrogation to its fullest. It just breaks my heart. It broke my heart when he testified in Zach's case, the
PCR,
the BCR case, that I was so surprised that he did as well as he did, because Dylan's on the spectrum, and I really just didn't know if he was going to have a meltdown. I didn't know how all that was going to turn out, but he spoke his truth. But I will never, ever forget what Jeff Jackson, Dennis Benjamin did to my youngest son. I'll never, ever forget. And Dennis Benjamin, I'll be your Huckleberry. Signing off.
Good evening, everyone. I think that's a perfect ending spot.